Hi there, I'm Amy.
And I'm Sue.
And we're the mother-daughter duo behind Chatter Matters.
Each week, we're going to be chatting through everyday challenges and how we navigate them as two women from different generations.
So get yourself comfy, grab your cup of tea or coffee, and let us show you why Chatter Matters.
Welcome to Chatter Matters.
Welcome back into the living room, everybody.
We love having you here with us for another week.
We do. The sun is shining. It's quite hot in here, to be honest.
It's been beautiful this week.
I mean, it's been stunning. Yeah, shining feels an understatement of what the sun's been doing in the UK. It's been blaring.
It has been, but Amy's been staying with me this weekend, which has been very lovely. And this morning we got up and actually went swimming to the Lido.
We did, which is so nice. It's the first time you've been to the Lido, isn't it?
It is. So you showed me the ropes, which was great. I didn't realise it was that big. And
it's
there
huge,
were
isn't it?
Lots of people out swimming this morning doing their lengths.
I know, I love it. It's like, there's something so nice about going to it, of like, we don't have very many community hubs anymore. And I think because we had the lane swimming bit at the beginning of the morning, and then as we were leaving, it was when sort of it opened up for general swimming and things like that. And oh my God, the queue must have been like, 300 metres long, 400 metres long, something like that. Like, it was madness.
There were a lot of people planning to spend their Sunday.
I mean, fair dues.
Yeah.
What a way to spend a Sunday.
Amazing if you've got kids.
Absolutely.
So what have you got in your hand there? Because it's part of the summer thing, I think.
Well, I know. So, I went on holiday last week, as we were talking about in last week's episode, and one of my friends is really into matcha. So I feel like I need to join the trend and I need to experience matcha. I've been told it tastes like grass, but she was really into it. So I'm like, I feel like she's got good taste, she's got good style, so I feel like I need to trust her. But we didn't get like a straw.
No.
And you don't own straw. So I'm going to be, for those watching at home, I will be stirring this with a fork.
Well, I'm looking forward to tasting. I have tasted it.
Have you? Did you like it?
I don't remember, because I was working with a bubble tea company. Do you remember? And they did a lot of matcha.
Oh, yeah. You went and you did your market research trip up to London, and you came back and you were like, I didn't like the bits that were in the bubble tea, which is the whole point of bubble tea.
What can I say? I don't get it. But it was. I did drink a matcha bit, so I'm kind of curious to see what you think.
So am I. I feel like this is
Is it caffeinated?
I think so, because lots of people use it as an alternative to coffee, don't they?
Okay, here we go. Amy is tasting, for those of you that aren't watching. Yeah. Her face is...
Yeah. I'm not sure about that. Well, because I got, for those that are curious, I got a iced matcha oat berry thing, because I use oat milk. I don't have regular milk. Yeah. I'm one of those Gen Zers. And I felt like I should add a little something to my first experience of matcha.
And... I didn't think you'd like it.
Is it the kind of thing that grows on you? Do you learn to like it?
I don't know.
It does taste like grass.
I didn't particularly enjoy my experience and haven't gone back. So there you go.
I do. I agree with the grass people.
Okay, very good. All right, let's get on to this episode, because we thought we might talk about...
Sorry, got distracted.
We thought we might talk about the role of men and women, because it's a sort of quite a hot subject at the moment.
Yeah.
Lots of people chatting about are men lost?
Yep.
Lots of women talking about, has feminism had its day and has it gone too far? So we thought we might have a little chat about that and have a little scoot around.
Yeah, because I think that I think your point on, it's being talked about a lot, but it's being talked about in very dramatic. As a consumer of media, I never feel like I just hear a normal conversation about it. It's always like, this study said this and this has said that. And, we did that whole episode on the Supreme Court ruling and that. And, so there was a whole thing about feminism and the role of women in law. And it just it feels really tense right now.
Yeah.
And I just think there's something about, our whole thing, which is how do you take that step back and actually just have a conversation about it in your everyday life rather than always consuming this super polarized content.
Yeah, I think that's wise to do, because I think the reason why it does feel tense is because I think everyone believes there's a right way and a wrong way, and I just think that this is a conversation. It's evolved. I mean, the role of the woman, clearly from the suffragette days when we didn't even have a vote, through to now, where one of the studies that I did read was talking about that for the first time young women are earning more than men.
Oh, interesting.
Which is really quite significant.
Yeah.
So if you go from that range, not in that many years, the role of the woman has transformed and financial independence is now possible, and I think there are knock-on impact to the role of what is the role of a man, the traditional role of the man who was the provider. If the woman doesn't need that because they're more financially independent, where does that leave the man's role? But I think it does feel... I think there are some statistics and data to say things have changed over time. Are we having the conversation in a way that doesn't feel dramatic? I don't think so. And I think it is polarizing. And therefore, I think it's quite difficult for your generation to even talk about it. Because all of a sudden, feminism is now wrong for some reason, in some areas where the conversation's happening.
So I think from a structure perspective, I think it'd be quite good for us to start on... what do we see right now? Like maybe talking about some of the content that you and I have both consumed on it, and I guess just a bit of a headline of kind of where we sit with it, like each of us individually. I think then I'd love to just pick your brains on how you've seen it evolve in your lifetime, because I think I'm very much a product of the stuff that's happened in your generation. And then I think we kind of just have a bit of a conversation of like, what kind of conversations have we had as a family? Because this is something that like my brother is super passionate about. And we've had to navigate our way through, because this has been quite a tricky topic for the three of us to navigate. So I think we can share a little bit about how we've done that. And then just sort of just generally, like, how do you go about having this kind of conversation where the only content you can really get access to is that really dramatic, polarizing stuff? Would be my suggestion of how we spend the next 30 odd minutes together.
Sounds perfect, Ames.
Gorgeous.
So should we launch into the first bit, which you were saying, which is like, what have we read? What have we consumed? Do you want to go first? Because you went through a big stage of reading quite a lot about feminism.
Yeah, so I think I had my real sort of feminist awakening when I was probably 15, 16. That was when I first properly became sort of like interested in politics and social issues and that kind of thing. So I did that was kind of when I first started reading like non-fiction books and articles and that kind of thing. And I think I've just continued that on. Like, I don't think I've ever been the most I think we can both sit here of like, neither of us are experts on any of this. We're just going to be sharing our lived experience. And I have, both with my psychology degree and then just with my own interest, have read various bits and bobs. I remember going to like the Women's March when I was 18 in London, which was like 100 years on from the suffragettes, and that was incredible. Just thousands of women gathering together in the colours of the suffragettes, and and so I've always been really interested by social movement and examining the role that I play in that and my experience as a woman, and how do I fit into the world? How does the world fit around me? I think funnily enough, I'm not one anymore, really, partly because I just don't have the time to really delve deep into some of this, because I think I get so focused on work that the content that I consume outside of work, I don't want to be too stressful. And I just find that the content right now is quite stressful to consume about this kind of stuff when we're talking about women's rights or LGBTQ plus rights or any measure of difference. So I actually feel not less informed, but I don't feel as up to date right now on the sort of latest studies, latest thinking, because of how tough I find it to consume. Whereas I think my view on the role of the woman is now primarily based off of just my own experience and how I feel as a woman and how I interact with the world. So I guess that would be my starting point of, actually, I think I've transitioned away from a data-based experience, a evidence-based experience, an empirical evidence, to a lived experience. And actually, how do I feel about that? How do I articulate that to the people that I love? In in order to have conversations, which is a different type of conversation, I think, which we can get into a little bit. But I think that's where I stand right now.
Makes sense. I mean, when I was your age, I don't remember really reading about feminism. I obviously knew about the suffragettes and, and I knew that we were lucky to have a vote. But through my mother's lifetime, she had always voted. So it kind of wasn't such a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm Gen X, aren't I?
You are Gen X.
So it wasn't such a big deal. I think I'm more of a product of more of the financial independence, that it was possible to have a family and go to work.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest
shift
that I've personally experienced, which is actually watching women not just be the wife and the mother that stays at home, but actually looking to continue their careers, looking to continue to earn. And so that's the biggest shift for me.
It's like you're the generation, right, of testing of can I have it all?
Yeah, I think so. I think where I'm right now is because I have a son.
Yeah.
I don't feel as equipped to be able to have the conversations with him, but they are really important conversations to have with him. So I think my listening to podcasts mainly is where I get most of my data from, is actually out of a curiosity of what is it like to be a man in today's world.
Because you listen to quite a lot of podcasts led by male voices,
yes,
don't you? Like I know you've got your favourite Esther Perel podcast.
Yeah.
But I think I notice that I find you consume quite a lot of male hosted podcasts. And I guess is that because you're wanting to get inside the sort of male brain?
I think so. And also because I work a lot with men, principally I'm working with men. So yeah, it is me trying to step into their world and understand their world from their perspective. And I think probably I am generally concerned at the moment with the narrative of principally this kind of win-lose.
Yeah.
Like feminism needed to fight in order to find their space. And now, but it feels like it's possibly at the expense of young men now. Again, the statistics will tell you that, that the rise of young men who are either in education or aren't working, it's pretty horrific.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I find the trickiness is this kind of binary way that we have on the world, which is, if someone's winning, then someone else has to be losing. Yeah. And I don't want my son to feel like he's losing.
Yeah.
Growing up in this world, and I equally don't want you to feel like you're losing either.
It's such a delicate balance, isn't it? Because it's, we spoke about, I can't remember if we actually spoke about it in that episode that we did on the Supreme Court ruling, but the conversations you and I have had, and I've had some of this with my friends as well, of like that feeling of with the feminist movement in the 50s, 60s, 70s, from someone who didn't live through it, it felt like the sort of ask was like, okay, men, now it's time to make space for women. And I think women, by and large, have done a very good job of stepping into that space and taking up space. And like so many more of us now are confident, we are powerful, we know who we are, we know where we stand.
Yeah.
And I think we're now at a point at which we, I'm generalizing for we as women, but we as women have had 100 years to work through what our new role is, how our new sense of self is defined. And I think the feminist movement was the liberation of women just get to choose who they want to be, whether it's a trad wife, whether it's a career boss woman, whether it's something in the middle. And I think that for me is given that the feminist struggle, the feminist cause has taken multiple generations to get to where we are now. We've had the grace of time to evolve and adapt and define what we want our experience to be, which is to have choice, I think, by and large. And I think what's interesting, what we're seeing the other side of is, but again, I'm making sweeping generalizations here, but men, I don't want to use the word waking up, but like men becoming aware of the fact that like women don't have a single role anymore.
Yeah.
And I think the struggle that I'm watching is for a lot of men trying to work out, okay, well, if women don't have a single role, do I not now have a single role? You know, which is that traditional provider protector.
Yeah.
And so actually they're now needing to go on that same journey that we have been on for years, but actually in the age of social media, in the age of instant gratification, the expectation is that they're doing an immediate shift within generation, within months / years, as opposed to the multi-generational time period we as women have redefined ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting idea of the length of time that these things take to shift in society. And, you know, so is now just a bit of an inflection point. Yeah. You know, and therefore the dialogue around it is hot because it is a bit of an inflection point. And then over time, will men work out a more integrated role? You and I were laughing about pink jobs and blue jobs. Yes. You know, and that it's such a simple thing, but it's typical, isn't it? Of like, how do you describe the role of a man, you know, the man's world and a woman's world, and using kind of pink jobs and blue jobs.
I love a pink job and a blue job. So for anyone who hasn't heard of a pink job or a blue job, it's kind of like, it's a bit of a silly way of sort of who does what work in the house. Yeah. It's like splitting up of the household work. So like traditionally, I would say laundry is a pink job, but taking out the bins would be a blue job. Yeah. Maybe cooking is the pink job, but doing the washing up is the blue job. But you and I were having a bit of a giggle because we both live on our own. So we just have to do all the jobs.
So we do purple jobs.
We do purple jobs. Exactly. I just, one of the main reasons I want to get in a relationship is I want to be able to split some of this stuff. I don't want to do some of the blue jobs. Like, what are your blue jobs? What would you like to offload?
Well, like, I mean, I'm happy to put the bins out, but I do know my bins need cleaning. Oh, because of, you know, you get bin juice, don't you? Oh, and I
just pretend it doesn't exist.
I know. Well, I sort of do too, but I think that's definitely a blue job.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At some point, I'm going to need to tackle my bins. Yeah, but I don't. You know, it's
drains.
It's a blue job.
Dealing with drains.
Yeah,
blue job.
I agree.
Blue job.
Unless you can get the bottles and you can just put hot water
down. What goes
on
in my shower is not my business. It's not my business.
So that's a blue job.
100%. I'm deeply invested in what happens in my shower drain because I know my hair is the issue. I don't believe it should be my job to fix it though.
Yeah, and I think you and I are probably in the same. I mean, I would like cooking to be a blue job.
I'd love cooking to be a blue job. I'd like sous chef, pink job. I'm happy to be a sous chef. I don't really want to do the cooking though. I don't want to be responsible for the cooking.
So the idea, but even then, I think, you know, shifting now. I mean, you know.
Well, my brother, I think he would say ironing is a blue job, which is not typical.
And he cooks as well.
And he loves to cook. He loves to hoover as well.
He does.
He loves his hoover, his little shark gadget. He whips that around all the time. I bet he'd be like, that's a blue job, tell you that now. Don't take that off me.
It's the best piece of kit I got.
Yeah, I do. I feel like whenever we're over at his house, the hoover comes out at some point.
He loves keeping his house clean.
It's pristine.
It's very good. He's
embarrassing for me, really.
Anyway, we digress on pink and blue jobs.
But I think it illustrates that point. Like, I think actually we've almost had a nice little tip in and of that conversation, right? I think roles in the home can be quite tricky to talk about sometimes because, you know, there's so much conversation around the mental load of, in a heterosexual relationship, the mental load of the woman to think about what's happening with the kids, when are we going to go shopping, what's on the shopping list, what are we cooking, what are we eating, what's in the fridge already, when does the next laundry load need to be on, because Jimmy's got a football match the next day, so we need to make sure that kit's washed. Traditionally, the mental load for all household work, majority of household work, tends to have been a pink job.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because of course you weren't I
didn't grow up with that.
You didn't grow up with that because we role swapped and we, you know, sometimes I was at home looking after you and sometimes your dad was at home looking after you. We were both able to do all jobs, which meant that there was never that kind of demarcation and any argument over whose job wasn't being done properly. But I do know that happens. There's quite a lot of.
I think it's a very normal And it might not ever bubble up into a conflict, but it could bubble up into resentment.
I agree
and
with
frustration.
That. Yeah.
And so actually, I think almost the pink and blue job is a funny, jokey way to kind of, if you feel like you need to have that conversation of like, I don't feel like the split is particularly fair, then it's a fun way to enter into that conversation and, you know, like, what is a blue job to you? What is a pink job to you? And it's obviously not limited to just heterosexual couples. But, you know, like, I think, you know, from a stereotypical perspective, that's what we tend to see.
Yeah. So we were talking about kind of the shift and change, weren't we? And how difficult it is to have the conversation. I was wondering about sharing, you know, with your brother. It's been... I've absolutely loved it, because I think he's really got interested in it
over the last 2 years, maybe
over the last
2-3 years,
and he's read quite a lot. And he and I will share podcasts on things that we're interested in.
And he's desperate for both of us to read The Boy Crisis, which is a book that he read and just, I think, found really validating to read. And because it talks a lot about how the role of man has changed and what is affecting our young men and boys in today's society, and the things that are missing and changing. And it talks about the importance of father figures and male role models in their lives, and how that can be a massive turning point for a lot of people. And, you know, there's so many I think, you know, I haven't read it yet, and it is very much on my list to read. Partly because it's been really important to him. Yeah,
it's been I think it was quite a seminal moment, you know, for him, partly to give him some language. And also, you know, he grew up with two very strong women, very feminist women, effectively. You know, so how does he chart his path as a man? You know, when he's surrounded by women that can have it all. You know, like, what's my role in, you know, in all of that?
Well, and are very opinionated as well. Like, I think if I think about how we've navigated this as a family, right? He's become very interested in it, but has never, for a very long time, he and I didn't really talk about it that much. He spoke to you primarily about it. And I think that was actually quite, whether it was conscious or not, I think it was quite purposeful, because I've been on my own journey about how to be more balanced when I feel passionate about something. And I know I'm very talkative. As if anyone's ever listened to any of these podcast episodes, I can absolutely go on a tangent. And I think I had to go on my own journey of how do I create space for other people in conversations when I feel extremely passionate about something, and holding space in my own mind and heart to hear someone else out. And it'd be okay to not necessarily agree with everything, but how do you still have that conversation with them? So I think it actually was probably the right thing for mine and his relationship to not talk about it for a while, because I think he was still finding his footing, and I would have just bulldozed the conversation of like, well, no, you're wrong, because this is what's happened, and this is women have struggled for years, you know? And actually, I think he and I have only really started talking about it more, maybe in the last 12 months or so. And I think that's I think my part to play in that is because I think I've got a lot better at being okay with someone not having the same opinion as me. Which is not something I find particularly easy, but I've got a lot better at it, because his opinion is so interesting.
In watching the two of you, though, it is sort of what I see happening in society, you know, is that the women all go, but you don't realise how much we've struggled and how much we've fought, and then it just shuts the male voice down, and so that in their time of trying to find their way, they're not finding the space to be held, to be listened to, you know, because women are like, yes, but, you know, and that. So
it gets into that win and lose thing, right? Of like, who struggled more?
Exactly.
You get into this battle of like, but we as a gender have struggled here. And then, you know, and I think the conversation that's happening right now is that young men, boys, older men as well, are also struggling. And maybe don't have the
they don't have the language, they don't have the emotional intelligence, because they've not necessarily been brought up, you know, to have the sort of empathy and to be able to find their way of articulating without it feeling like, you know, you've taken our space, you know, you don't, you know, right now you've got it easy, sort of thing. So I think some of it is trying to find the right language and trying to find a way of having an emotionally intelligent conversation. about this rather than just an opinionated conversation.
Yeah. So when you were first starting to talk about it with my brother, what were some of the things that you were doing in those conversations? I guess how did it come up in the first place, and then how has it developed over the past 2-3 years or so?
Well, I guess initially I would see the two of you struggling to have your conversations, and I think what helped was then he went off and read this book that we talked about, which then gave him some language and also legitimized his thoughts and feelings around it, which I think is massively important. You know, it's like, it's not just me, this is a thing.
And I think there's something very different as well of going like, there's a legitimization of the feeling, you know, because I think it's so difficult in these conversations it's so easy to conflate feeling with fact, because the feelings that you have, you can feel like you are not in, you can feel like you're not in a position of power, or you can feel like you're not, whatever it is. And that can be really legitimate and a legitimate point of fact in the conversation. But also understanding that maybe there are some macro things that are going on that potentially you specifically aren't feeling, but are still true of the system that we operate in.
So I think that knowing that it was sort of, he was searching and then finding that book was great, because then he and I we talked about the book. So it was less about him and more about what had he read, what was he interested in, what were the bits that stood out for him. And I just wanted to hear from him, you know, talking about the book. So that's really how it started. I didn't have my own opinion about it. I was learning. I was learning from him and what he was finding interesting. And then from that made me go and research myself, so that he and I could have more of a conversation around it, so that I was a bit more educated and a bit more aware of his side of the narrative and story, his experience, or men's experience.
And I think there's something really interesting there that links back to what we were talking about in the trust and safety episode, that credibility piece of, you recognise this was something that was important to him, so therefore took time to go and find out more about his side of experience, and to read some of the stuff that he's reading, so that then you can enter into that conversation armed with a little bit more information, which I think was probably a really key piece of the puzzle here.
And I think and part of that is not in order to win the argument. It's to learn, and for I think for men, what's really important is to be heard. You know, that this is not something to just be ignored or brushed under the carpet or dismissed. I think there is a thing going on for men right now, and particularly for young boys right now in society. You know, whether you look at the Trump election, whether you look at post-pandemic in the UK, there is something boiling around disengagement or upset or anger that at the moment feels displaced in various different places, and is not necessarily finding its voice in a healthy, contained way, so that men can navigate and find where they fit in today's world. So I think we have a role as women to use our emotional intelligence and to allow men to come into this conversation and to support them and help them and not dismiss concerns.
And so this actually, just a question popped into my head as you were talking, and just give us Mama Sue's hot take on, in today's society, and I guess we're specifically talking here about cisgender, so people who are born with the same sex that they like and gender that they identify with, in heterosexual relationships. I don't think this is quite, I'm sure that, you know, members of the LGBTQ plus community can probably relate to some of this, but I think we are specifically talking about heterosexual men and women because of that dynamic that is created. What's your hot take on the role of a man and the role of women in today's society? How do you see it working?
I mean, I think inherently in the male makeup from what I've read is I think there is still a role of being provider.
Mm-hmm.
And I think without having that role, I think men feel lost.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to just be monetary providing. So my updated version of it's not just a financial providing. I think if you can't provide financially, then doing some of the pink jobs, doing some of the other, if you look at all of the roles and responsibilities that you have, how do you add value?
Yeah.
Provide emotional support, provide physical support, provide, there are other ways.
Safety is a big thing for me. I think
exactly.
That feeds into the protection. But for me, if I think about the men in my life, like the ones that I will continue to be drawn to are the ones where I feel really calm around.
Yeah.
And I feel very safe to just be myself, and I can cry if I want to, and I'm not going to get laughed at. Yeah. And I could go and be a bit silly and stupid and playful and fun, and and I think I love when the men in my life provide that safety to just be whoever I want to be. I think that's a massive role that you can play.
So I think provider and protector are still really important male roles in life, but I think they just need to be slightly updated in terms of much more of a holistic view on what does protection mean. Because protection for me is also you stand up for the guy that's being bullied. You don't just take the piss out of them. So I just think there's
because there's the role of provider and protector for your male friends as well, and for your female friends and your family.
Exactly.
Like, we're not just talking about in a relation, in a romantic relationship here. Like, it's and you can you talk to protectors of communities, protectors of society. So I think that is still innate in men. It's like standing up for what's right.
But I think we can expand the repertoire of it's not just money and it's not just protecting your partner. We can expand it and give it more of a holistic view, which I think allows more space for men to express themselves. If they're not able to be financially massively, wealthy, then
you're not your 6'2" blue eyes guy in finance.
Because
what was that song? I'm looking for a man in finance, 6'5", blue eyes.
Which was really interesting. Listen, there was one of the podcasts I listened to. It was like there's like only 1% of the male population are that description. So like writes off the rest of the kind of population. So I do feel like we need to expand our vision of what does providing mean and our vision of what does protecting mean to allow men to still step into that space. I still think that's massively. I think they have a big role to play still in society around that. And then, procreation.
Whoa. What does that word mean?
Well, to have children.
Oh, yeah, procreate. Right, yes.
They still have a role.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, quite like physically.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought there was a take there other than we do still need their sperm.
No, but I think there is still, like, without men or male sperm, like, the humanity
we just die out.
Exactly. So there's still
unless we become, is it like lizards where like you can just spontaneously, anyways, I could go down a rabbit hole of like, I'm sure there's an animal out there where they like women, the female
they
animal can like
be both, can't they?
Can be both.
Yeah, I don't know what
anyway, sorry, we're going to go down a rabbit hole there. Okay, so that's how you see the role of man in today's society. What do you see as the role of woman?
God, that's a good question.
I love when I get into an episode, I ask a question, Mum goes, oh, good one.
I know.
It's very validating.
I mean, I still think there is, again, maybe nurture, but not...
Nurture, but not caretake.
Yes,
would be what I would.
Yeah. So again, do we change some of the definition around what we mean by nurture? Because I have quite a broad... Like my frame on nurturing is quite, it's quite broad. So I think innately women are more empathetic.
I wouldn't say innately. I think we're taught. I think we're taught to be empathetic.
Do you think?
I think so.
You don't think just the natural
but like what is natural?
Your motherly instincts? You don't think that's naturally there?
It could be there. I do believe that little girls are still taught to be caring. little girls are taught to, you know, think about what other people are thinking more than...
What, with their dolls?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you play dolls, you play doctor, you play, you know, a lot of you play a dress up. You put on different people's shoes, literally, and pretend to be them. And I think that play for little girls is still very much in service of the broader community, and stepping into other people's positions and thinking of others, rather than the stereotypical boy play, which is run up trees, jump off them, push people over.
Fair. While you've been talking, I've been thinking, what if the woman also has a role of providing and protecting?
I mean, I'd agree, but I think it looks different.
But it looks different, exactly. So how can we share roles rather than it divvying them up? So how do we...
Well, because for me, and I guess this, so my what I would like to provide is that is emotional stability. It is understanding. It is you know, a warm hug. You know, it's like it's the I agree with the nurture and the care piece, and then I guess what would women be protecting?
I mean, Mama Bear protects her cubs. Like,
That's
I'm
true.
quite...
You're quite fierce.
I'm quite fierce if anything, you know, kind of comes in the way. So it's a different... potentially a different way. So maybe we can all do the same things, but we just do them in a slightly different way. So if our roles were integrated rather than divvied up, would that help both men and women to step into their power rather than one being better than another? I think that for me is ideally where I would love to get to, is can we, like, everyone rises, you know, rather than there having to be a win-lose dynamic, is what I would love. You know, that the world is a big enough place where we can all win.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be necessarily losers.
Yeah.
Is what I would love to get to.
God, to quote Hamilton, the world was wide enough for both of us.
Yes, I agree. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I would love the world to be wider enough, because I think it is.
Yeah.
And somehow if we can help each other, regardless of gender, race, you know, how do we help each other lift up, rather than feeling like for me to be better, someone else has to be lower.
So I'm wondering, as a bit of a wrap up, what do we feel like in these kinds of conversations, if you're having them with your family, with your partner, your friends, what would you say some of the big takeaways are on how to hold this conversation in a way that is where you can have a productive conversation, and I guess maybe some watch outs?
I mean, we may have mentioned this, but I think for me, there is something quite nice about saying, I read this the other day, or I heard this the other day, and I wondered what you thought about it. So it's not a straight in about, let's talk about our, you know,
this is how I see myself, or this is how I see you.
Exactly, or being judgy about, you know, can men just get over themselves because it's the women's turn. I don't want women to become like men in you know, in the kind of crowd out, you know. So I guess one of my tips would be that, you know, just generally having a interesting conversation about something that is
it's almost like take it
away
out of your dynamic,
exactly,
and into the you're talking about the ephemeral as opposed to the personal.
It's not about between you and I, it's about a thing I've read or a thing I've heard, or I wonder what your point of view is on this. I just think that might be an easier, simpler way of kind of moving
into the conversation for a first time.
Moving into the conversation. And I also think it is the sort of thing that you do when you go out on a walk, or you do in a car ride, and, you know, so it's less less intense would be my...
And I think with all of this, I think something like the question that I asked you of like curious of like, how do you see the role of men? How do you see the role of women? Like just being curious. And I think with something like this, there will be a difference of opinion because it's going to mean something different, you know, what it means to be a woman, how you and I experience it is going to be very different for some of the women that are listening to this podcast. Yeah. You know, the same, you know, we are also not men. So I can imagine that the male experience is also going to feel very different. So I think there's an understanding of like, you can still have a good conversation. You can still find common ground, or disagree on things. But just knowing that this is not the kind of conversation where you're likely to immediately be on the same page. Yeah. It's one that you will talk around quite a lot. And to your point of like, it's never gonna be helpful if there's a winner or a loser as it comes out of it. Yeah. So I guess
that was my build on your, you know, ask questions as long as you're really willing to listen.
Yes.
Don't ask them because you think you've got the right answer and you're trying to catch the other person out because you think they've got the wrong answer. Yeah. You know, again, that's never going to go well. So I think
you can still, you know, as we've spoken before, you can still challenge, you can still ask questions. Yeah. You know, and
you can disagree without undermining or diminishing the other person. You know, we can have a different point of view and a different opinion, but it doesn't mean that I don't love you still. Yeah. And so there's something about how we get better at...
Well, and naming it. Yeah. Of like, I disagree with what you've just said there. Yeah. From my perspective, this is how I feel. I understand that you have experienced X, Y, and Z, or you believe that and that's your opinion. From my perspective, this is how I feel.
And I think when you and I have spoken about sometimes when a conversation hasn't gone as well with your brother, I think my coaching of you has always been, can you play back that you've heard him before you put forward what you think? Because I think part of the issue is that we don't feel like we're being heard. Yeah. And then we feel like we have to dig in and say it louder.
Well, because then it becomes a debate. Yes. As opposed to a conversation.
Exactly that. So I think, you know, my tip is if you're having this conversation is to do that kind of playback of, you know, or acknowledging what has been said by the other person so that you're not monologuing.
Yes.
Each other. And I think also just have a little bit at a time. Like don't make it heavy. It doesn't have to be a 2-hour conversation. It's a 5-minute, leave it be, come back in another month's time and go again. And you know, I don't think it has to be a, you know, one hit wonder with this kind of thing. I think it's you know, certainly with your brother, we've been having this conversation probably over a year now. With different little pockets, and sometimes we'll pick up on it and sometimes we won't. You know, it's so I think holding it lightly.
As always holding it lightly, curiosity, listen deeply,
and be respectful. I think of the other person's opinion. Not everybody has to see the world in the same way that you do.
Amazing. Well, I think that's a fantastic spot that we can leave it in for today. Loved that.
I would also I'd love to hear from our people that are listening on what they think. Your question of what do they think is the role of the woman and the role of man now. You know, like what are people's points of view on that? I think it would be really interesting to hear from you.
We'll test my technological capability and potentially I'll add some form of question box, poll. I don't know. We'll find out. Putting it into the universe, potentially it'll happen. Look out for it because I might work out how to do it.
I think that would be really nice. It'd be interesting if our community could role model how do you actually have this conversation without getting polarized on it.
Absolutely. Well, and for anyone who was invested in the matcha debacle, I think I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. I'm not ruling out getting it again. And I've been drunk quite a lot of it. It does still taste like grass. So I'm just... But I wonder if it's the kind of thing where like I will enjoy it the more I have it. It might grow on me
because it like when you first and also coffee like when you first drink coffee, you know, sometimes it can be a bit like, man, I'm not sure.
So we'll tune back in. Who knows? I might have another matcha in my hand. We'll find out. Well, I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Enjoys the sun. Stay safe in the sun. Have a good time. Again, as we said last week, for all the parents out there that are dealing with small people on holiday. Hope you're staying sane.
Good luck. Well, it's about to start here in the UK, isn't it? Very soon.
Yes, I think private schools were this week.
Yeah.
Well, last week when this goes live, and then I think state schools at the end of this week coming.
Well, then we'll probably get some rain, because that's normally what happens.
Yeah, naturally.
When
Glorious final few weeks of school, and then just the summer's rubbish.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We'd loved having you with us for another week, and please send us through any thoughts that you've got on this episode. We think it's quite a live conversation, so we'd love to hear from you.
And any like podcasts or articles that people think are interesting, we're more than happy to like repost those on socials and things like that as well, because it's all about learning, hearing different opinions and things like that.
Take care, everyone.
Amazing. Speak to you later.
Bye.